as its will. So the markets have been on a tear recently, but with inflation ticking higher than expected, is a pullback potentially on the horizon here? Well, this is our Sunday stock talk. I'll break down the top tickers to watch this week and why the setup that we're going to be watching here could catch some traders off guard. So drop your favorite symbols down below. Let's jump in and get prepared for Monday at market open. So we see some volatility kick in a little bit here as we get into Sunday afternoon. We got some, looks like some movement. Green for the most part, a little bit of red here and there, but we're seeing some green. We're going to see what it looks like here at market open. I got the chat open so I could see you guys. And if you have any ticker symbols that you want us to take a look at, drop them below. So the first one we got here is take a look at TDD from Crazy Carl. Financials look good if we can confirm a $70 break, potential 20% upside. Thanks for the details on that, Carl. Let's take a look. TDD. I don't see it. TDD. I don't see it. TTD. Got you. Okay. I'm like, it's not there. All right. Cool. TTD. So $70 price point. You're looking for this break and a potential uptrend continuation, I would assume. So what we're looking at for TTD, overall uptrend happening here. We saw it pull back significantly, definitely was oversold on the RSI and MACD and started to recover. And we saw it recently pull back down. You're looking at this potential trend here. You do have some resistance levels. This is a resistance, consolidation, support, 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 resistance, resistance, and support level. And then just recently potentially kind of bouncing here. So you're kind of seeing, can it continue up? Can you get some confirmation for it to continue in this direction? Looks like the next target actually would be up here at this level. You got a resistance pretty strong in this area around $85 a share. I don't know if that's the break you're looking at. That's a resistance. You got definitely some resistance up there. And it has broken. It's not the strongest level, but it seems like that would kind of more or less be the target for TTD. And then you look at the info line. Let's take a look at what it looks like. So it started recovering since April. We see it push back up. That right there would be that 25% increase or 20% increase that you're looking at there. So you're looking for this move to play out. Yeah, I mean, I like the focus there. I think that would make sense if it can hold that level. So it looks like maybe it got rejected and then found support here at this $65, $66 range. And we're looking here for that break up into $80. Yeah, I like the potential move there. From a technical standpoint, it looks really good. There is that 100% potential swing in a continued direction. TTD stock is one I haven't looked at the fundamentals. This is Trade Desk, okay? $34 billion. They got a fairly high PE ratio. So, but their revenue growth, like the valuation's pretty high already. But the revenue growth is about 25% year over year. So 25% year over year growth in revenue, while their net income has shrunk a little bit in that last quarter. Annually, though, you're seeing revenues increase pretty significantly, and the balance sheet as well looking good. So I mean, financially looks good. I don't know if there was a catalyst specifically you were watching for the company, but as far as the chart, yeah, I would confidently trade that and watch it. Look for that 10 to 20% swing. So I like the overall direction as well. And intrinsically, when we looked at the values, it looks pretty good. So nice pullback, starting to see it recover, and you're looking for that 20% swing right there. So makes sense. Cool, cool. Okay, the next one we have here is from Leo Melendez. He says BBAI. Let's take a look. BBAI has been on this trend from when we started covering it back here in October. It was around $1 a share, shot up to $10.50 before selling down. And that was in February when it reached that peak of $10.50. Then we see it sell back down, found a low of $2.36, and has been recovering ever since April. So I have some long-term positions in BigBearAI, and I think we've traded it probably about a dozen times over the last like 2 months. So we definitely trade it at least once, usually at least once a week for sure. The recent trade we made was this one from about $4.90 up to that $6.20 price point. It was a huge, 30% swing. When we look at the recent moves, let's get rid of all these drawings real quick and just kind of take a step back, because we've seen it break out recently. So it's starting to push back up. It's starting to make its way into these levels. See it get into that $6 price point. And from a technical perspective, you got this resistance level here pretty strong all the way back to support that then acted as a resistance, acted as a resistance, but broke out above it. And you could even move that up a little bit right there. And you see it kind of sell back down, broke below, kind of pushing back down. And right now it looks pretty overbought. You see it kind of like extend upwards, but ton of momentum recently, ton of sentiment building with the company. And so now that we're looking at it here, there's this resistance level that it's at right now at this price point. You can see it's gotten rejected here before at $6.10 essentially. And it looks like if that's where it's getting rejected, that's where it is right now. So we got to watch here. We kind of said, hey, it's possible we see a good size pullback on BBAI and maybe see it as low as like $5.50. I know that's not the most favorable for you guys, but it has shot up super, super high. As a long-term investor, I'd love to see it continue. Absolutely, that's great. But from a short-term perspective, the volatility is expected. We might even see it sell as low as here, back down to this $5 range. So we got to watch it closely. I think that as we're getting a hyperbole trend, maybe acting as this previous resistance as a support, it looks good. So from the financial perspective, we're anticipating a lot more growth with BigBear.ai. If we go to the finances, and thanks guys, saw we were ranking on Google there with that page. If you go to the finances, we take a look at their recent earnings. They kind of talked about how the amount of money that they're expecting to come out with in the next quarter most likely will be more, because they were expecting this number in the last quarter to be higher. And while it's up year over year, the reason it wasn't, they said, was because the money literally hadn't hit their bank account yet, and that their contracts were just in the pipeline, but that it would be reflective between that time and the next reporting. So what does that mean? We see their revenues increase year over year, and they're starting to get into some good stuff here. They did reduce their debt recently. If you look here, they kind of chopped their debt. So that puts them as a really kind of favorable financial position to have a good quarter next quarter. And then what did we see recently came out with Big Bear? One of the things that happened with Big Bear was more institutional holdings, but also if we looked at the news, their VeriScan has been expanding super fast. So this is a technology that they're putting out at airports, all the port of entries. They have Department of Defense. They have the Pentagon contracts. They got an Army contract. They have all these airport contracts for this technology, and it looks like it's TSA. But a lot of it is actually right where you're like getting on the plane. So they kind of have gone around the system of TSA, gone directly to the gates of the planes with the individual like airlines or what have you. And then now they're saying like, hey, governments, do you want all this data and stuff that have this really cool system that we didn't have to go through like the TSA with, and we have our own infrastructure built out at all of these airports, which if you look at their news, you can see they just announced some of the airports that they're at, which are not small. You got Denver, Dallas, JFK, Los Angeles. We're talking like the big airports, and it's international. Talking about other countries, you got Heathrow, then you got Canada, Vancouver there. So there is this expansion, and that means most likely they're going to have an advantage in that they their financials will look even more favorable. So with those things in mind, and they're kind of approaching these next earnings, it could get shaky. I kind of thought maybe they continue to run, and we don't know really, but what we'd look for is a pullback. I would look for a pullback and an entry at market open that we could then trade for a shorter term trade and hopefully let it run into a longer term trade if we get a good enough entry. That's kind of the look right now. Now we're not super liquid in the account, at least over here in the short term trading. We'll be trading probably maybe 10K in a position somewhere in there. It's not going to be huge because we already have long terms with Big Bear, but we will look for those shorter term trade opportunities as they do tend to present themselves pretty often. So next one we got on the radar. So did we go through everything? Let's see, the market's good. They got good news. The financials weren't that favorable, but most likely will improve. They're kind of out of resistance. If they continue to break out above this 620, we could see a bull run continue. The next potential level at which they'd reach would be up here. It's about a 70% increase to previous highs on BBAI. But watching that resistance key level is key. So we'll be basically watching that. Does that all make sense? You guys tracking? Cool. And APLD. So the next one we got actually is from Even. He says, Pony, can you take a look at PONY? Let's take a look. PONY, Pony AI. This is an AI company recently IPO'd back here in November 2024, has been consolidating essentially from left to right. They're at $13 a share. I don't have any pattern for you. Even I don't have any pattern really. I mean, I guess you got a high right here. You have this kind of like support that's developing, and then you got this lower level that if it doesn't hold that support, you could maybe see this. So that's kind of like a consolidation. Not much to work with, but that's kind of how I would view it right now. When it's below the EMA, it's usually going to be bearish. When it pushes above, it's bullish. It did just push below and it's trying to break above, so it might be bearish and sell down. But let's take a look. What is this company? It's PONY stock. Financials, $4.8 billion company. They are specializing in AI and potentially working with Uber. They have annual net income negative over $250,000, and their net income is increasingly negative. Balance sheet, they got a ton of runway at $1 billion in assets with only $82 million in liabilities. So while their actual revenue numbers are pretty horrendous for their valuation, it's horrendous. It's not good when they're losing that much money, but they're a $4 billion company. Not good for the valuation. They do have the assets, some cash apparently from maybe some funding pre-IPO or something like that they secured that puts them at around $1 billion in assets. But again, no revenue, nothing looking too good there. If we take a look at the company, some of the articles that are coming out here, you got CNBC talking about them. You got potentially Pony partnering with Uber, and Uber may acquire Pony AI. I don't know why. We could take a look, but it's a Yahoo Finance article. So I don't know that it's one we really want to watch. It's possible. I don't really want to go into it because it's not directly from the source. So let's try and go directly to the source and see what they have going on. Pony AI. As you can see, and I love you guys you guys are so hyped on a lot of stocks here, and I love to see all of the different companies you're covering. It's great, and you're sharing it with me. So much of the value comes from you guys, so appreciate it. This looks very familiar to lasers. Looks almost the same. So they have a wow, LAZR. Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't touch this personally. It's really similar to this stock. I don't know if you know This stock is LAZR, Luminar is what they're called. And they specialize in something similar. It's like this thing on the top, and they have partnerships with some companies like Volvo, I think maybe Hyundai. They're in trucking, and their technology is basically the same. It seems pretty similar. So I don't know if you know that, but it's basically going to be like very similar. But the financials on Pony AI are very, very bad, honestly. So personally, I wouldn't touch it. I guess it's China's robo-taxi founded in Silicon Valley, and they got a lot of funding. Yeah, I mean, personally, I just wouldn't touch it. Just too early in IPO. But yeah, I mean, go for it. If it's something, just because I don't see the value doesn't mean it's not valuable. It just means that I haven't, like, I don't know everything about this company. If there was like some catalyst where you're like, they're literally about to explode because of this thing, then yeah, like I totally understand. I don't know enough about it, to be honest. So, and the financials just don't add up there for me. All right, the next one we got here is you got Leo, then you got Boris is APLD. Hey Boris, what's up? Hopefully you're having a great day today. Let's jump into it. We got APLD. We've done quite a lot of coverage on it. Last time we said, hey, it may bounce here. It looks like we covered this on Friday. Essentially, we're looking at this trend. Overall trend was up. It did make that move, which we had called out earlier. It was a move we actually called out to that $15 price point. So it swung from this rising support all the way back up to that resistance. That was a great trade. Really good time. A lot of people made a lot of money here. Then we saw it sell back down. It's down to $9.50. And now we're looking, looks like what I had come to the conclusion of was a potential recovery up into this $12 range. It's about a 29% increase. Why? Well, they got this new partnership with CoreWeave, with the hyperscaler CoreWeave, to build data centers for CoreWeave. I think it was like a $7 or $8 billion contract. And then they also signed this, they got some other data center contracts with like NVIDIA. They build the actual data centers essentially. And then just about 8 days ago, they came out with this article here, that they have a lot of pipelines, of a big pipeline, and they're building North Dakota AI data centers here because it's pretty cold there, which contributes to lower operational costs, improves sustainability. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of reasons why they've seen some momentum, and some of the reasons why are that they focus on data centers. A lot of big tech companies want data centers right now, and then they're specifically focusing on building in places that are like they're going to be very efficient and use the environment to our advantage, rather than building like a data center because we got a bunch of space out in Nevada, let's say. It's super hot and gets up to like 120 degrees in the summer. They're going like North Dakota, or they're going to Michigan, or they're using hydroelectric power or wind energy or solar or whatever. And so they're a little bit better when it comes down to the usage of electricity for sustainable energy sources. And I like the market. It's one of the best markets. You have data centers being one of the main reasons AMD is a really undervalued play. So yeah, makes sense. Absolutely. One of the things we're talking about in our live session for this upcoming week that we were talking about on Friday was that quantum computing is going to be a market we want to focus on pretty heavily too. And so because AI is based on a lot of it is data centers, a big piece of that too is what new companies are coming out with technology that could potentially eliminate even that need for a massive surge of power and energy, and possibly quantum computers being that solution is where AI also we kind of see things going. So that's going to be really interesting for this next week. We'll be watching it. Looks like the next one we got on here is Michael Curry, says OS. OS. Let's start with it over here. OS stock, it's called OneStream, a $6.6 billion company. They're in Michigan and they got 1,500 employees, quarterly revenues of over 100 million, and they IPO'd in 2022 and have seen increasing revenues, but also increasingly negative net income. So net income, not so hot. Let's see if that reflected in the balance sheet here. Did they end up paying down some debt or something? Yeah. So total assets are up while total liabilities stay low. 870 million. Actually, not a bad valuation. Earnings per share 0.04. They're building out what seems to be what is their focus? It's OneStream. OneStream. It's software and enterprise, predict the unpredictable with AI-powered planning, transform finance organizations. Polaris, looking forward to machine learning. So they're doing Polaris. Costco, they're working with Costco. McCain, Fruit of the Loom. Okay, so they're bringing AI to customers. UPS, NASDAQ, you got Capital One, Toyota. Okay. All right, makes sense. They're actually getting really good revenues as well. So from financial standpoint, I'm happy to now look at the chart. Let's take a look. Cool. So again, looks like they just recently IPO'd, as we mentioned. Not much to say here. Yeah, I can't give you much because they just IPO'd. From a chart perspective, it doesn't look so hot. They did spike out right after IPO, then they kind of sunk a little bit more, and we see them sink a little bit more, and they're kind of getting rejected. They did kind of start this trend. So we're kind of looking at it this way. It's like, are they going to get rejected and maybe even sell down more and kind of continue the sell-off from IPO? It's super common that companies enter a sell-off. And Darren says, bout Foxo. I don't know what that means. China Robotaxi. Yo, yeah, that was that one we were just taking a look at earlier. Pony AI. So yeah, again, like it's this resistance here. We could see if it holds, great, continues up. Otherwise, it looks like it might be getting rejected potentially. So OS right now, not one I would necessarily look to trade at least, and probably not one we would buy. But I do think there is some potential there. If they kind of break pattern or get into a more consistent pattern. Because again, I'm doing this analysis, but like it's pretty short time frame that I'm able to pull here. Yeah, so not a whole lot to work with. Yeah, like the other thing is like maybe it has sold down, but it's something kind of like this. And we start to see it kind of act as a support and it gets more bullish and it kind of reverses. That's kind of the other perspective, but it's below. So that would be a bounce. It's below this, this 200-day moving average. So we'll see. Okay. So, but yeah, so right now, as of now, I would be more patient. I would see if it develops more of a direction and then kind of go from there. Michael. All right. Rakesh says CYN with recent NVIDIA partnership in robotics. Please check with your smart knowledge, he says. Oh man, you flatter me, dude. Rakesh says CYN. CYN stocks at $28 million market cap. This is the smallest company I've covered probably this month. Oh my gosh, Rakesh. What are we looking at here? What happened to this company? My gosh. Okay. So it's just kind of fell apart, but let's take a look at the quarterlies. Let's see. revenues are pretty. So when you see orange, the orange is a negative net income, and the blue is like positive revenue. So the balance sheet, volatile, but not too bad in the last quarter. And what is the name of this company? Cyngn. It's called Cyngn. Cyngn. So they just partnered with NVIDIA. They automate your material handling. So they're kind of similar to Symbotic stock that does like the back end warehousing for Walmart and like Target and stuff. Autonomously haul and tow thousands of pounds of heavy goods. NVIDIA, Motrec, Araco, BYD, and Coates. Autonomously haul. And they have these different like autonomously driven forklifts and people, building materials, manufacturer. And they're still in kind of like startup mode right now. So extremely high risk, super small market cap, really good markets though. So market like robotics, automation, especially warehouse type of stuff that could be applied to companies that are already doing this. Forklift people, I usually think they get paid between like, let's call it $15 and $45 an hour, maybe more, maybe less, but usually around that price. So is it a big enough problem, or like, is it going to really pay dividends for people to invest in this as a person that owns a warehouse and then go through like that it could actually do it as good as a human? And are they organized enough in their warehouse to do it? And can they compete with companies that already have really good solidified partnerships like Symbotic, who's a newer company? Like Symbotic does the same thing, and they already have all of these big partnerships with some of the best companies. So they're kind of like similar, but they're kind of ahead of the game. But this company's like losing a lot of money so far. They're still like building it out. They're partnered with BYD. So there's potential there. You do see some of the autonomous tech. So there's potential. It's a really good market, but without the financials lining up just yet, probably wouldn't touch it. But really, really cool setup there. Yeah, and so someone's commenting, Michael's like, Symbotic, take a look at Symbotic. Yeah, I mean, if you look at Symbotic, they're legit. Like Symbotic has $500 million contracts that they just signed with Walmart, and then other contracts with Walmart in Mexico and Central America. They got Albertsons or Target, and they're doing the same stuff already. They're just ahead of the game. So, you know, they're going to have a lot of tough times, this new company, like getting market share. But again, they're in a good market. It's just like, I would want to see more revenues before I see it as a good deal. So I'm not even going to look at the chart for that one, but that's how we kind of look at it. Cool. Awesome. Yeah, hopefully that's helpful for you. And then you got the next one, as Michael said, Symbotic. Yeah, but we just kind of went over that one. But yeah, I mean, Symbotic, from a financial perspective, things look good. Wow, we have a lot of charting. I think what happened last time is it shot up, it got rejected, and we're like, it might bounce here, and it kind of bounced, but it's like trying to break out. So Symbotic's overall market cap build has been good. They IPO'd not too long ago, but since then they've seen some momentum. I think Symbotic could absolutely be this type of company that makes this run back up into these highs, 70%. That's kind of what I was looking at. They have a few key levels they have to break out of. It's actually a really good time. When you know the financials line up, when you know that the news lines up, I actually like to look at some Fibonacci here. So I'm actually going to jump in to a Fibonacci retracement. So you go from the high down to the lowest low, which was right here, 1632. And we're going to go to previous highs, which would be up here. Call it that. It says we're in the golden ratio right now. So according to Fibonacci, Symbotic is a buy right now. The Fibonacci retracement basically says buy in the 0.618 ratio if you're bullish, and you go from the lowest point up to the previous high or where you could see it continuing. So essentially with Symbotic right now, according to Fibonacci, it's a buy. The financials indicate more of a buy, and the news has been pretty good. So I kind of like that play. For me, I actually am most likely going to be trading it and investing in it more. When we look for these deals, it's the pullbacks, it's those good entries that we get, and usually it happens somewhere around market open, something like that. And if you guys ever want to see how we trade at market open, you can always join us. It's the second link in the description, and there's a sale there for you too if you want to join us at market open tomorrow morning. So when it comes to this, it's like a good trade would be this 10 to 15% swing up in this $40 range. If it goes really well, we're talking about this purple range, the 0.38, about a $45 to $50 range, which is about a 45% increase. And then you can see up here up into the $64 range, the $53 to $64 range, which is about a 78% increase. So there's definitely the potential there for Symbotic, and we'll be watching it closely, definitely. That's why we have it on our AI watch list. So nice call out there. Again, not trying to make it too complicated, but I do like to bring in that Fibonacci. And then outside of that kind of bearish outlook where we've seen it, we're kind of looking at this overall trend build. So that's kind of what we're looking at here. Something like this. Woo, gonna see that move potentially. Get back up into these $50 ranges. Cool. So what else do we got? Jmart, Rich Tech. You guys are commenting down here. I see a lot of comments. It's hard for me to get to every one of them, but we will do our best. It looks like the next one is Rich Tech. Is it RR? I don't have much for you for Rich Tech. I don't want to really cover it. I'll kind of walk you through why it's not one that has the attention. Okay, let's just go through it. So they have these robotics they're building. They're the AI-driven robotics to solve real-world challenges. They have a lot of different products, a lot of different models. Their website looks really good. I could talk with them. I could see how their different robotics work. From kitchen to table, robotics reshaping hospitality. I see it. They have their stock and everything else. It's cool. Now, when I go over to the investor stuff and I check out their news releases, they have some things where they are releasing these news articles. 16,000 drinks served here, but not really seeing any like contract values. Then they say invited to a support event, United States Space Force. Okay, there wasn't a contract value. Then we see Beijing. Rich Tech Robotics in Beijing City of Design Developments sign an agreement to accelerate design of next-gen AI-powered service robotics. So they signed an agreement. No contract value. Like I'm looking through here, it says like the partnership will concentrate on joint research and development. So they're going to research together. This partnership significantly enhances our ability to integrate cutting-edge AI with practical robotic solutions. It's good. I'm looking for the contract values because this is where things start to get shaken up. When I go over to the financials again, $220 million market cap. We've seen this kind of build, but we've also seen manipulation on the stock before. And then we get into like their quarterly, and their revenues have not increased whatsoever, holding around $1 million a quarter as a publicly traded company with a valuation of $220 million. And they're only making like $500,000 in a quarter in that September. And so net income losing about 4.5 million per quarter. So yeah, the balance sheet, we do see increasing on the balance sheet. So their total assets going up, but still not anything that's very favorable for them. So that's why. If we see a contract, the moment they have contracts, something like that, you know I'm going to cover them for sure. But right now, the manipulation with the unfavorable financials, that's why I don't go into it so much. Oh, does that make sense? I want you to know it's not that I'm like, I don't want to do it because I don't want to do it. It's not like I don't want to cover it because whatever, because I don't feel like it. No, it's like it doesn't make sense for us to cover it consistently. So, but I'm always happy to take a look at it and see if there's new stuff that comes out. Because if there is, like, we'll change, we can change our direction anytime. It just has to be based on like real values that come into play, if that makes sense. So next one you got here, let's take a look. Darren, you got Nicholas is in here. Dan, let's take a look. Jen Fari is in here. And the next one that I see here, Rocket Lab. Corey David says, can you do an analysis on Rocket Lab? Rocket Lab, I was just last night at a dinner with a friend. He's one of the best developers at their company. He's a software developer at Rocket Lab. Just had dinner with him, my wife and I and him last night, actually. And I could tell you they are a very innovative company. If we go to our space tech watch list, they're almost always at the top. They're at an all-time high, about $37 a share. They have 10x'd since we started investing in them back around $3 a share. This was when my buddy got hired, and I actually helped him write some of his application stuff. It was really funny. We went bold with the application. We said we need to get the attention. So in the application, it was like, if you need a guy to fold a burrito with one hand while he's calculating the density of the air for this rocket or something like that, I'm your guy. And it worked. It actually worked. So RKLB, we see them continue this uptrend. We can actually remove some of these lines, which is super cool, because there was a while where it kind of broke pattern, and now it's actually back into this overall direction. So now we're seeing it kind of here, and we're looking for maybe a push up further. It is possible, but now starting to look overbought. Definitely on the overbought side, as you see that big swing up. We could potentially see it shoot up into that $39, $40 range, but again, conservative approach. They do have revenues, they do have contracts, and they're an awesome company, as I mentioned, but they are way overbought at the moment. RKLB, they got a ton of holders. They're an end-to-end space company, which means they build all of the things, like not just the rockets. They build the solar, they build the microchips, all that stuff. And they specialize in building carbon composite rockets rather than steel. So they use special materials they develop themselves, which they drive down costs by developing themselves. It's more expensive than steel, but it's way lighter than steel. So they save money on payload. So it ends up working out. And the carbon seems to be doing better as far as performance than steel. Spacecraft solutions, again, end to end, they do the solar cells all the way down to the software. All the components are made by Rocket Lab, and they end up selling those components to other companies, and not only launching for Space Force, for NASA, for even partnered with most satellite companies. So if you look at some of their missions, one of the big companies we covered recently was Black Sky over the past few weeks, and they launched with Black Sky to get those Gen 3 satellites up into space. So Black Sky is the company that has been securing contracts as well, and they also have this super high def satellite for AI analytics, and they have some really impressive technology there. And so they're partnered with Rocket Lab, but the point is, Rocket Lab basically is the gate for these companies to get their stuff up into space. So they're launching for IQPS, they're launching for Canais, these are satellites. dozens of satellites or hundreds of satellites they're launching for NASA. These are even Leidos right there. They're all over the place, and it's good, and it means that they are the go-to for launching, and they're a publicly traded company. Now, the other thing to consider about Rocket Lab is valuations are high when we look at the near term and seeing that recent spike. But when you look at the market cap of like SpaceX, for example, they're at $250 billion, whereas RKLB stock is only at about $16 billion market cap. So in, let's say, comparison to SpaceX, if they were to reach, let's say, 25% of that of SpaceX, which I think is totally realistic, that puts them at, let's see, 10% would be 25, 20 would be 50, plus another 12.5, so 62.5 billion, which would be essentially a 4x from here, which would put Rocket Lab stock at, what is that? 4 times 35, $140 a share. So $140 a share. Rocket Lab potential long term, I think makes sense. Near term, I mean, that's why we hold it long term. Near term, we could see some pullbacks. And if you're getting in for a short term trade right now, I wouldn't advise it. But long term looks really good. Near term, expecting some volatility for sure. Cool. Yeah, so hopefully that makes sense. And Nick says BBAI, we covered it at the beginning, and we're going to jump into one more. We got time for one more stock, guys. We're going to take a look at IONQ. So if we head over to our quantum watch list, there's Rigetti, there's QBTS, there is IONQ. There's some other ones you guys had mentioned. I think it was Quantum Emotion or something like that I saw. And what we're covering here on IONQ is that they have had this recovery, not all the way to previous highs. Let's see, where is their stock? Not all the way to previous highs, but really close. And we saw this 3 stages to a reversal back here in April. So you can kind of see this 3-stage reversal. You have the overall downtrend holding below that EMA. Then you have the consolidation from left to right. And then you had the reversal take place for the next 3 months. That's a really classic reversal. Now, we're still in this trend, but we have seen some kind of drag out consolidation from left to right. And it's possible that that means we get to see a sell down. And that's another stage. So you got the first stage could be that stage, the second stage is consolidation, and then the third stage potentially reversing down. So IONQ, I love the tech. One thing to note about their trapped ion technology, when I was able to talk to some of the executives when I went to CES in Las Vegas, talked with IBM, talked with IONQ, talked with NVIDIA and Rigetti, and one of the companies that they are partnered with is NVIDIA, and not just NVIDIA, they have Microsoft and Amazon. So that's kind of a big deal because basically they're operating their companies in tandem with these partners. So all their technology is kind of like shared, and they're like going through the cloud and stuff, which is pretty big deal to be able to potentially use quantum computers through the cloud. Then you talk about some of the news. When I was talking to them, what they said was that there was a few things like improved drug discovery. When you're trying to find a drug discovery, you have to like, up until now, it's been like guessing. Like, can we get the right peptide protein to bind with this? And then that's like our cure, or that's our vaccine, or what have you. But with quantum computers, they could take like years and years and years worth of research and like try and they're doing this where they'll run all of the data through it. It will spit out like 8 options, and then they can choose one of those options to go through and even run AI on it to like do more research on it and get it down to where they find the actual peptide proteins that bind. So those are like cancer type of vaccine cure type of stuff. They're talking about direct carbon sequestration as well as improving the lithium ion battery, which they were able to do by like 70% or something crazy off of some of the tech. They got partnerships with Air Force Research Laboratory, Oak Ridge, you got Los Alamos, Hyundai, Airbus, GE, Microsoft, Google, Amazon. So they got the reach right now. One of the things to note too is because they just passed this bill for the $2.7 billion National Quantum Initiative Reauthorization Act, this bill passing did some stimulus work on a lot of the quantum companies. So if you take a look at their financials, this, like most financial overviews of quantum companies, doesn't look that good. Like the net income's negative. It's okay. Like it's better year over year by 18%, but like pretty deep on the net income there. 2025 looks good. But then the balance sheet, look at that influx of cash. You see that? They went from 500 million up to 850 million in cash, and their liabilities dropped. So the balance sheet is definitely like increased, and it means they have more research, more money going into the quantum computing. And I think that's one of their biggest advantages, because most quantum companies don't have the same runway as they do. Them and Rigetti are in a really good place. QBTS, while they're more self-sufficient, they've done a really good job of selling it. They just, in my eyes, have oversold some things that maybe aren't congruent with the actual state of where they're at in my eyes. And so I found it to be not entirely accurate. And when doing the research and going to the conferences and meeting the people, I just noticed that it was like, it's great. There's a lot of hype. The articles and the marketing, amazing. But when it's amazing, you have to ask yourself, are the results actually there? Are the hard facts of proving that they're better or a better solution than GPUs there? And when you have big companies that are there like Boeing or Anduril or whoever, and they aren't fully on board, like they're not really using QBTS, but they're like scouting it out, but they haven't used it, it just kind of shows you that like they're not quite there, they have that breakthrough. And so I think the sell down's eminent on QBTS. And IONQ, though, they've started to make that run. Corrections are fine. You know, we've been covering it since it was at like $7 a share, and we saw it spike up to $53 a share. Then it sold down. Now it's back up to $50 a share. And so if it sells back down to this $20 or $40 a share range, somewhere in here, it's okay. It's conservative. It's good. If anything, it would be better because they're a technology that's going to be around for a long time. We'd like to see the conservative approach kick in. Just from like a short-term trading perspective, there's also a lot of volatility. We were trading IONX earlier last week in one of our market live sessions. It was right here. We had bought somewhere here, and we sold up in here in the $70 range. I mean, these are not small swings. How much do you think the swing was that we caught right here? It was a 18 or 19% swing. I mean, that's huge. So they swing pretty significantly, and we like to trade the short term. Long term, I'm down with the idea of seeing quantum computers as one of the next big technologies to increase the efficiency of computers and most likely work in tandem with GPUs to run extremely complex computations. The thing they're figuring out is data storage. Think about trying to figure out data storage when you're working with ions, trapped ion technology. It's not easy. So as they get down to, you know, trapped ions into the chip and then into the actual data storage from those billions of high frequency not transactions, but like computations, then you're working towards some unbelievable technology. So I think it's really promising in the long term. But yeah, near term, we'll see if they hold this uptrend, which they could. Otherwise, we could potentially see that sell down kick in, as it almost looks like they might be getting to that third stage of a potential reversal. So guys, thanks so much for tuning in. I love all the ticker symbols. There's a huge amount of them. You know, it's been just a little bit around an hour, so going to have some dinner and enjoy the rest of the Sunday afternoon. I hope you guys have a great rest of your Sunday nights. We are having our live session tomorrow morning, and we just released the earnings targets for Stockmate for today. And we got some new earnings this week, but you'll notice that this week's earnings in Stockmate do not have an highly anticipated, because not really much happened in here in there. But I'll tell you what, every morning we trade live, and if the market sees a correction, we most likely will play it even on the downturn if it happens at market open tomorrow morning. So if you'd ever like to join us there in our market live sessions and see how I trade every morning and surround yourself with other like-minded individuals, it's the second link in the description down below. Hopefully I earned your thumbs up, guys. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, and do consider subscribing. I'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.